Welcome back to another episode in the NFL Rejects franchise, the franchise where we're only allowed to sign regular season and preseason free agents aged 30 or older, build a team out of them, and try to prove to the league that these players deserve a spot in the NFL. This episode is going to be one of the more exciting ones in this franchise series. It's the one where we say goodbye to the Thunderbirds and pick a new team name. Of course, it's still the NFL Rejects franchise, but I like to just pick a new team name and a new uniform and all that every new season. We're going to start out here with a little bit of a recap here, looking back at the past season, at what we achieved with these rejects, taking a look at the team itself. So just to start with this one here, an emotional goodbye to these players. This is what's going to happen right now before we sim the Super Bowl and then head into off-season. Looking back, I think we were really gifted with a few exceptional players in here. I mean, David Bakhtiari, of course, really springs out of this picture here, being a superstar dev trade. But to be fair, I really felt like the entire offensive line wasn't super horrible. They were, of course, slower. They weren't as quick and agile as they probably used to be in their prime, but they were very strong, very tough, protected Ryan Tannehill a lot, and he had a good production. We're going to look at that later on. One thing that absolutely blew my mind was that Mo Ali Cox is a star dev trade. Probably that went past me, or he just was bumped up very, very recently. Anyhow, overall, I think this offense was good enough. We had good production out of these players here. Of course, regression is in full effect, so there's no surprise there. On defense, we even had better players. Some players have started regressing already. I think Justin Simmons started out as a superstar. Stephon Gilmore started as a superstar. Pat Peterson was elevated to a star dev trade though, so that's nice. And Xavier Howard over there also started trade. These players, of course, the cornerstones of this defensive unit here, also with Jackson up here. The linebacker group wasn't that hot, but they did their job pretty well. And the front four, they absolutely wreaked havoc. Had a lot of sacks, tackles for loss, a lot of tackles. So I really like the production there. And on special teams, man, Dustin Hopkins did really well. We're going to see the stats later on. But yeah, this is the team. These are the Thunderbirds, and we're going to be saying goodbye to them. We're going to be taking a look at the yearly awards next, because there were a few surprises in there. I'm not going to be looking at the NFL overall MVPs, because that is, there's neither me nor any team member is going to be in there. But when you look at the AFC side of things, of course, you've got the Offensive Player of the Year, then you've got the Defensive Players of the Year, the Rookies, so that, of course, these are categories that we will never feature in. But when you look at that by position, you can see that the best quarterbacks, no Thunderbird here. Running backs, same thing. Wide receivers, same thing. So I was like, yeah, nobody's going to be here. But the offensive line, we had Bakhtiari, and then George Fant, and of course Dwayne Brown. So 3 Thunderbirds in this lineup. That's as much a representation as the Chiefs are getting. I think that is pretty cool, actually, that these players are showing up here. A defensive line, there's nobody in here again. Linebackers, nobody. Defensive backs, nobody. But then Dustin Hopkins, best kicker. I really feel like this is pretty cool that he did get recognition there, and that's basically what we're after. We want to have some recognition for these rejects here. We of course will not be drafting players, but what we will be doing is we're going to be taking a look at some stats here, especially for the team. I think that is due some respect for these players. And Ryan Tannehill, to be fair, really had an absolutely brilliant season. I would have never seen that coming. Yes, he had 18 interceptions. That is crazy high. But 3,436 yards. Completion rate, not great. But I was really expecting nothing. And I got a lot more than that. So of course we're looking at all of these dudes here with their pretty high ratings, 4,282 for Pat Mahomes, very good completion rate. But everybody's in their 60s here, which was interesting. And Ryan Tannehill is not that far down, 3,436, 100 more, and he would be higher up, 200 more. So he really wasn't all that bad. He's got good names stacked behind him. You know, Brock Purdy, Jaden Daniels, Jared Goff, Justin Fields, Baker Mayfield, and so on and so forth. A lot of rookies, of course, but even Lamar Jackson is ranked behind him. I just think that's insane. Joe Burrow, so really big names, and I think he can be very proud of that, that he achieved that. When you condense it down to the AFC side of things, it's looking even nicer. He really has a very, very good stat line. And, you know, there are starting quarterbacks that are way lower, such as CJ Stroud, 2,700 yards. All right, so let's return again to the Thunderbirds here. And I approached this from the wrong side. Sorry for that. Anyways, let's take a look at the rushing side of things. Jerick McKinnon, of course, was the star of the show. He had 133 attempts, 674 yards overall, 7 touchdowns. Latavius Murray actually got 5 touchdowns with way lesser yards, but that is because I used him differently. Cordell Patterson immediately showing up after Jerick McKinnon's injury. So I really like this group. Felt very good looking at Jerick McKinnon. Mo Alley Cox here on the receiving side of things, the receiving leader, 907 yards. He did really well, 7 touchdowns. He contributed a lot. He was, you know, really the go-to guy in many occasions, but I think it's very nicely distributed amongst a lot of players here. No real drop-offs. Even players that got a few snaps contributed to the cause. So yeah, really good looking. But of course, Mo Alley Cox was one of my favorite players this season. On the blocking side, you now can see why David Bakhtiari was ranked this highly up. He was really good. He was really, really good. Sacks allowed, of course, we did have a few sacks. That happened. But looking at all the games played, looking at the downs played, you can just see that these dudes were incredibly stable. Really, not a lot of injuries, especially for the older dudes. So that's awesome. On defense, the solo tackle leader, that is Stephon Gilmore. He did so well, but when you look at it, it's 50 here, 48, 46, 43, 43, and then we're close to the 40 here. A lot of players, again, contributing. It's not one standout player that did all the work. It's just a lot of players helping out here and there, left, right, and center. The total tackles combined against Stephon Gilmore, Xavier Howard moving up, but you could just see that we've got players like Pat Peterson who had 13 assists. That is a lot. Bud Dupree, 13 assists. Marcus Golden, 12 assists. It's just such a balanced group. I really like that. Tackles for loss leader Chandler Jones did exceptionally well at right edge. I'm pretty happy that he was on the team. I don't think he'll be viable next season, but we'll just see what happens. We've got 4 sacks. So the sack leader Lawrence Guy Sr., Tashawn Gibson Sr., Marcus Golden. Interceptions, also a big category. Pat Peterson, 3 interceptions. Stephon Gilmore. So, you know, just looking at this overall, I have to say that I really feel like my most important defensive players, Pat Peterson, Stephon Gilmore, not even joking there. We also had a few forced fumbles, not as many as I would have liked, to be fair, but again, can't really fault anybody. And Dustin Hopkins was fantastic, 89% field goal rate, 17 made out of 19 attempts. That is a very, very good percentage. Of course, it's no Justin Tucker percentage, but looking at the overalls, I think this is just a really good result, one that I did not expect. The punting wasn't fantastic, could have gone a little bit better. Kick return, there's a lot of stats in there in case you really want to get lost in that. But yeah, I think the main takeaways are Ryan Tannehill was a good quarterback this season. Gonna say thank you. He showed the league that he still has it, that he didn't deserve to be a reject. Jerick McKinnon was great. Cordell Patterson was great. The other ones, not so much, but I feel like they contributed as well, especially Latavius Murray. On the receiving side, Mo Ali Cox was my favorite player here. I did like Julio Jones and his routes, and I also feel like Mac Hollins and Marquise Goodwin also really stepped it up, and they made important plays. I'm never going to forget that Robert Woods last second turnaround there. So, all that into consideration, all that, praise where praise is due. But now we will be looking towards the next season and shaping the next iteration of the NFL Reject. So for now, I'm going to say goodbye, Thunderbirds, and we will be moving through the weeks now into off-season. So for all of those interested, Super Bowl ended with a win for the Bills, 30-14. The Bills seem to have it all this season. We're a fantastic team and pretty much unbeatable. This is a very important part of the Rejects franchise series, the retirements. When you look at the roster, it's down to 30. And I just expect a lot of retirements here overall, and this is basically the pool of players that we could have drawn from. So the players that are listed here are never going to be on this franchise anymore. I don't really care too much about some of them, but Harrison Smith could have been a great addition at strong safety. I would have liked to see Russell Wilson. I would have liked to have Cameron Hayward. He would have been fantastic. Jonathan Hankins, Taysom Hill, Demario Davis, big names in here. Adam Thielen was a reject last season. Troy Hill, last season, Madden 24, I mean. Justin Houston, Tyrod Taylor, Aaron Rodgers. I was hoping that he would be available for us, but yeah, not going to happen. Morgan Moses, Roy Robertson, Graham Gano. A lot of big names that I could have and would have really liked to use. I mean, just these three. Darius Slay, Lane Johnson would be great. Brandon Graham, Calais Campbell, Teron Armstead. Oh, there's just so many players that we could have used to rebuild next season's rejects. All right, well, here come the reject retirees. So this is a definite goodbye to these players. I'm not going to be missing too many of these very much, but some, of course, were very good. Kareem Jackson really helped us out. Jason Brett was good. Mercedes Lewis stepped it up. Pat Peterson now retiring after 14 years. Lawrence Guy Sr. did well. Jason Peters, yeah, a lot of backup players. But Julio Jones, Randall Cobb, Robert Woods, Latavius Murray. A little bit sad to see these go. Von Miller, all right, these are a lot of great names that I would have liked to welcome to the rejects. But yeah, it's not happening. We will be shaping the next iteration of the rejects without all of these players here. I'm just going down here. If you want to see it more slowly, just press pause and take a look in your own time. All right, so we're going to be moving into the next weeks now. There will be no activity, just putting that out there. We will not be re-signing players. We won't be signing anybody out of free agency, and we won't be drafting anybody. So next steps will be basically in preseason to start shaping the new team. All right, so free agency in the off-season has ended. We're not allowed to pick anybody here. Our roster is still at 0 players out of 75. Also, the draft recap for the Thunderbirds is nothing but an empty screen. We didn't draft anybody in all 7 rounds. Obviously, those are the ground rules. But I want to show you where the players did go. At least the first round players. Those are probably interesting. James Pierce Jr., right edge, moving to the Giants. We've got Luther Bird and the third going to the Washington Commanders. Carson Beck joining the Los Angeles Rams, probably a good choice. I think they need a quarterback. Nick Skirton here joining the Cardinals. Abdul Carter joining the Jags. Will Johnson is now a Titan. Will Campbell joining the Patriots. Mason Graham, the Broncos. Shadur Sanders dropped down quite a bit more than I probably would have expected him to. Is now a Raider. Princely Uman Milan beefing up that Steelers defense. Travis Hunter, now a Falcon. Tyro McMillan, a Viking wide receiver. Harold Perkins Jr., joining the Bengals. This is going to be interesting. A new defensive player to face up against. Quinn Ewers is now a Jet. That is actually pretty interesting. He will be stepping into the shoes or into the former place where Aaron Rodgers was standing. That's actually a pretty realistic move if you ask me. Benjamin Morrison, now a Packer. JT Tumolo joining the Eagles. Deion Walker, the Seahawks. Jack Sawyer, Chargers. Kelvin Banks Jr., the Bears. Emeka Ikbuka beefing up the Lions receiving room. Tyleik Williams, now a D-tackle for the Texans. Kenneth Grant, D-tackle for the Dolphins. Ashton Gillott, a Raven, and another defensive player out of LSU. Colston Loveland, tight end, now a Saint. Emory Jones Jr. joining the Buccaneers. Landon Johnson, also a Steeler, another defensive player for them. Tacario Davis, now a Colt. Malachi Starks, free safety, joining the Panthers. Quinton Judkins, now with the Cowboys. Denzel Burke, the Chiefs. Mikael Williams joining the San Francisco 49ers. And the last first-round pick, Jabbar Muhammad, joining the Buffalo Bills. So there's that. I think that covers most of it. Let's just take a look who the highest overall rated player is and in which round he went. Was there any late round steal? Probably Ollie Gordon at halfback, 80 rated. That was probably one of the more interesting ones. Fullback, Tyson Decker. This is looking cool. 79 rated fullback in round 7. Yeah, well, fullbacks usually go pretty late, but are there any other upsets? Nah, not really. Round 3, Langford, right guard here. But apart from that, no late round steals. Kadarius Jeffries, we could argue about him. Isaiah Coombs. Nice. All right, so draft is done. We're now going to be moving into the next season proper, starting out preseason, and also picking a new team name for the NFL Rejects. Week 1 of preseason of the 2025 season, and you can see that we're all empty. 0 overalls, 0 offense, 0 defense. What we will be doing now is we're going to be picking a new team name, and of course I put up a poll. You guys answered. Thanks for that. I'm going to show you the results of the poll on the screen, and we will be relocating right now. We're going to stay in Canton. I don't really see the point in leaving the city as a whole, but since each team is completely different, it just makes sense to kind of go for a different uniform, different name as well, because each team has its own legacy. So the Thunderbirds are done, and now we're going to be taking a look at the new setup. I will be moving through this just once to show you all of the uniforms that there are. I think they didn't change them a bit coming from Madden 24. For the most part, I really feel like they are nice, serviceable uniforms. Some are pretty weird, I have to say. Some are absolutely beautiful. I did talk about that in-game quite a bit. Right on the screen, you can now see the results of the polls. And basically, the Dreadnoughts didn't get any results. The Bulls got 22%, the Voyagers 26%, and clear winner the Orbits. I wanted to go for something with no red in the color scheme, because we're just coming off of a red season with the Thunderbirds. So that's the idea here, just to change it up a little bit. I like this one. I think it's pretty clean. We're going to see them in-game, and that's the first step to our new identity as a new team here. We're also going to be picking a different stadium. I think we had the hybrid stadium, if I'm not mistaken. I actually like all of these a lot. It's just in these you do have wins while taking field goals. With these you can reduce that. I'm gonna go with this, the basic futuristic stadium. I mean, we can just mix and match here, so why ever not. And here we go, it's the Galaxy Stadium, lovely name. The Orbits are here, and you can see the screen is now in a lovely blue. We've got the new logo, but and that's a big but. We have no players on the team yet. So the next step is to quickly build up this team out of the players that are available in preseason, move through preseason, and then in week 1 finalize the look of this team. Alright, so this is phase 1 completed of the build-up of this year's Reject Orbits. The process is always the same. Dive into the available free agents, build the best team possible out of these options. Again, some players look pretty good, some return like George Fant, Donovan Smith. Josh Reynolds was available as a wide receiver. I always convert him to tight end in these scenarios. He's way better. He's a 74 rated wide receiver, but a 77 rated tight end. Does really well. He's fast, he's tall, so very, very good. We get Michael Thomas, we get Marcus Valdes-Scantling. We get Zay Jones and Tim Patrick and Allen Robinson as well. I love the wide receiving group at the moment. The running backs, beautiful names in there. Alvin Kamara, Ezekiel Elliott, and Austin Eckler. James Conner's also here, but I always convert him to a fullback. Again, 72 rated running back versus 76 rated fullback. I want to have a dedicated fullback in there. Jimmy G is going to be our quarterback, 65 rated. That's not a lot. Jacoby Brissett is the backup. I don't have a third one at the moment. On defense, things are looking better, I would say, at the mid linebacker position. Eric Kendricks and Bobby Wagner, close to 80. The outside linebackers, Bud Dupree returns. Nicholas Morrow, we've got Dennis Gardeck and Tyus Bowser here. Not looking too hot, but again, individual stats do count here. The safety positions, we've got Rudy Ford, we've got Jalen Mills here, we've got Von Bell and Justin Poyer. Jordan Poyer. I'm really loving this setup here. Very, very good safeties. The corner is looking good as well. We've got Lewis, we've got Davis, we've got Mike Hilton, Shaquille Griffin, and that's that. The front four looking nasty, and I'm loving it. Samson Ebukam behind him, Emmanuel Ogba on the right side, Dietrich Weiss Jr. and Yannick Ngakui. On the D tackles, we've got David Onyemata, Denico Autry, we've got Reed and Dalvin Tomlinson sitting here behind them as backup players. And the special teams are set with Brian Anger as the punter and Harrison Butker as our kicker. So I'm pretty happy. Alright, so here we go. This is the finalized version of the new NFL Rejects for the 2025-2026 season. We made some slight changes compared to the last time we looked at it. There weren't too many new players available, just a few. Aaron Jones was available. I had to go for him, no questions asked. Tyler Boyd, another great addition to our receiving room. We have to compensate our quarterback, the lack of a good quarterback here. And by the way, yes, I'm giving Jimmy G the nod as my starter over Jacoby Brissett. That might change during the season, but yeah, we have a lot of running backs, and Austin Eckler sadly is injured, and he's the worst one out of the bunch, which means that I will cut him in 2 weeks time as soon as he does get free. I did shuffle players around quite a bit, not taking their overalls and their initial position too much into consideration. For instance, I mean, I did sign I let go of a very expensive left guard, Wes Schweitzer, and just switched Mark Lewinsky over from right guard. Why? Because we are actually having cap issues. That is interesting, first time ever. But it's just a lot of quality, and quality means money. And it's the same thing here. I did manage to bring in good backup players. Leonard Floyd, for instance, Samson Ebukam, over in Dietrich Weiss, Yannick Ngakui. Almost everybody on the same level here. So that is awesome. But of course, yeah, that just means money. And we don't have an endless supply, meaning we will just have to mix and match as best we can. Special teams unchanged for the most part. The specialists, I will be setting those later on practice squad. We have no players. And just to give you a quick look at the depth chart, because I know some of you are interested in that. I'm gonna go through this real quick, just position by position, so that you have an overview who's here, which players we have on which position. It's a little bit better in this view, in my opinion, compared to the other view. We have a luxurious situation of having really high quality running backs here, both close to the 80s. Then Zeke and Connor as the fullback, and we can also mix and match here, which is pretty cool actually. I like that a lot. The wide receivers also high quality. I've got 5 wide receivers right now. I'm not really feeling the need to shuffle this too much. If injuries happen, we will have to work with this anyways. The tight end room, focusing on Josh Reynolds, of course, CJ Uzoma and Zach Ertz. I did bring him in because he's a little bit cheaper than the other available dudes. On left tackle, we're gonna have Charles Leno, and I can immediately see that there's some bumpiness happening here. On left guard, Donovan Smith, Mark Lewinsky, that's clear. On center, Connor McGovern, Bradley Bozeman. Right guard, Greg Van Roten and Daniel Brunskill. Why is Joe Noteboom playing here? I have... oh, there's an injury. All right. But anyways, well, the planned setup is as is. We will be using the nominal left tackles at left tackle and the nominal right tackles at right tackle, of course. That being the setup, I have a full confidence that this is a good setup actually to start out with. On left edge, Samson Ebukam and Leonard Floyd, both high quality. On right edge, Dietrich Wise, Yannick Ngakoue, unchanged. To the other view, David Onyemata, Denico Autry and Jerron Reed. Shaquille Brett joining right now in week 1. He was let go of his team. Man, that's a godsend, because otherwise we would have been stuck with Dennis Gardeck as my starter, and I'd rather take Shaquille Brett. Bobby Wagner and Eric Kendricks going to be filling the mid linebacker position. Nicholas Morrow, Bud Dupree are going to be handling right outside linebacker. Cornerbacks, I've got 4. Mike Hilton, Jordan Lewis, Shaquille Griffin, Michael Davis. On free safety, Rudy Ford and Jalen Mills. And strong safety, extremely high quality here. Von Bell and Jordan Poyer, loving that. Kicker, Harrison Butker. Punter is going to be Brian Anger. And I always like to work with these positions here, because, you know, Alvin Kamara is going to be my main running back. So I'd rather probably use the other running backs here to make sure that we don't have any injury situations. Give the other players some time off just to make sure that works well. Tyler Boyd is receiver number 1, of course, so I would rather look towards a player that I otherwise would not use in the other scenarios. Right now, I think I'm going to leave this as is, actually. I could use Marcus Valdes-Scantling. I could use Zay Jones, probably. Zay Jones is my wide receiver number 2. So why not go with Michael Thomas? I'm going to try Michael Thomas and then Tim Patrick. Tyler Boyd, wide receiver number 1. We'll be getting a lot of action anyways. All right, guys. I think that's all we're going to be doing now. We, of course, already could take a look at the next season and the schedule. Just going to be doing this super quick. I don't want to put too much time into this. The season is going to be completely different because we have no base to build from. We, of course, are still in a pretty tough group. All of the other teams buffed, added new players, and so on and so forth. We're going to be going over that in the next episode. But for now, I'm just going to be saying thank you so much. Thanks for joining. Thanks for making this special for me. I hope you have a great time. Do drop a like. Please subscribe if you like what I'm doing, if you like this franchise series. And as always, stay awesome, everybody. See you next time.